Hello everyone, and welcome back to World of Warships Blitz with Terry. Today we are looking at the third Commonwealth destroyer in the game. This is probably, I don't know if she's out at this point or still upcoming, but this is the HMCS Huron. This is a Canadian destroyer that did exist. And I think also the third tribal class that we have in game. Now, the tribal class were quite interesting. They were initially designed, obviously, by the British, but they sprouted from the same design that led to the Dido, or apparently Dido. I've heard some people saying Dido, I'm not quite sure why, class light cruisers. So these were more powerful destroyers meant to compete with what the French, the Italians and the Germans were cooking up. And the tribals initially had 8 guns, 4 twin turrets of 4.7 inch or 120 millimeter guns. But the British had sort of underestimated the role that they were going to put destroyers in, as had everybody else very much. And instead of being fleet escorts, they very quickly ended up being convoy escorts or lone hunters of sorts, and operating independently, and as such had to be a little bit more effective in terms of anti-air defense, such that as a wartime modification, the rear turret from the tribals was mostly removed and replaced with 100 millimeter anti-aircraft guns. So that, I think, wasn't the case with the Huron, at least from what I could find. She was built only with 3 turrets, so it could be that this is because she was built later in the war, that this was already done to wartime specifications. And she was launched in, I think, 1942, and then still active in the late stages of the war. She was escorting convoys in the Northern Atlantic towards the Soviet Union. She was taking part in engaging German forces in preparation of the Normandy landings, and she was actually getting ready to still be sent over to the Pacific, but then the war was over and that was no longer necessary. But she was reactivated for the Korean War and did carrier escort plus shore bombardment and similar kind of close duties as a destroyer at that time, until she was eventually decommissioned in the 1960s. So unlike the HMCS Haida, she is no longer with us, except for, I think, the 100 millimeter turret or the 4-inch turret that was added in. So that I think is still there, but the rest of the ship is not. So, in-game, what are we looking at? Well, the Haida had a bit of a reputation as just frankly not being very good. And she has received a couple of buffs, I think, over the lifetime of updates that have been applied. But let's compare how the Huron is looking, because I honestly haven't played the Haida since she came out, so I can't actually really tell what that thing was all about. But Huron has a couple of tricks up her sleeve, especially when it comes to the ship specialty things. Because the Haida, unlike most of the other things that are British designed and have torpedoes, can't single-fire torpedoes. The Huron can, and the Huron gets an extra heal. In terms of skills, we're missing an engine boost, but in return we get a sonar, and we get not 4 of the regular fuel smokes. Instead, we get 2 of the extremely long duration crawling smokes. So this is the sail at half speed, and I think you can do this with engine boost up and get a little bit more out, but you probably wouldn't bother. But it lasts for a long time, and you can effectively crawl through the game in your smoke screen. Statistics-wise, they're very similar. There's a minor difference in hit points. There's some minor differences in maneuverability. The Huron has arguably better guns than the Haida. Now, the HE damage has been taken down a notch, but it's not going to make a massive difference. In return, we get a 0.6 seconds faster base reload, and we get a bit of a better range, so I'll take that. Unfortunately, the torpedoes are completely identical, with the major difference that she can single fire these torpedoes, and that is a major difference in my opinion. Very unfortunately, the AA is complete absent, which, given that these things were technically having dual purpose 120mm main guns plus a twin 100mm mount in where the X turret used to be, as a large caliber AA. Plus, this is a late war model, so she should have gotten the 20mm Ehrlichons as well. I really, really, really don't see why she doesn't have any AA. So, the other thing that's confusing is that she gets a 6.6 kilometer base concealment, whereas the Haida gets 6. I mean, these ships are, for all intents and purposes, mostly identical. I mean, if we look at that, and then we look at that one, this is the same ship, Wargaming. There's no difference, except for the flag sitting somewhere else. All right. Obviously, given that these are premium ships, we do have to take a very quick look on how they compare to the actual tech tree. Now, we don't have Commonwealth tech tree ships, but we do have the Jervis, which is not a tribal class. The Cossack, by the way, at tier 8 is a tribal class, but the Cossack is on the earlier variant, before the British had stripped down the third turret and replaced it with the twin AA mounts, which we can't use because the ship doesn't have any AA and you can't actively use AA mounts to shoot at anything on the surface in the game. So the Cossack would have been the older ship, but is a tier higher because she gets an extra gun turret, because gaming logic. But the Jervis is at tier 7. She's not a tribal class, it's a J class, obviously. But let's have a very brief look and see how these two compare. So we do get the Jervis's sonar, and we do get the unique creeping smoke here. But unlike the Jervis, we get the extra heal and the engine boost. The Jervis is quite a bit more maneuverable than this thing, but the guns have only a 6-second base reload, and it's the same number of guns, so not quite the same in terms of gunfire power, but obviously the Jervis has a significantly larger amount of torpedoes, which take a bit longer to reload, aren't quite as good, but she gets 10 versus the Huron's 4 torpedoes. The Jervis also doesn't have any AA, but the Jervis also has a better base concealment. So, what do we have then? We have a ship that's, compared to the Haida, actually not bad. I mean, I haven't found the Haida to be completely terrible, I think, but she was definitely not much better than average back then, and that was before they buffed her recently. But this ship's actually not bad. And the gimmick is all in the ship skills because you get the sonar from the British line that the Haida doesn't have. You get the creeping smoke over the fuel smoke. Okay, potato, you can take it. But you get an extra heal. And you get what is, in my opinion, arguably amounting to better guns. But you pay for it in terms of worse concealment. That said, I find this to be a relatively enjoyable tier 7 destroyer. But let's go through the setup and then we'll play some games. You get the choice between torpedo damage and torpedo flooding chance or main battery traverse speed. I'm going with main battery traverse speed for a single reason. The base traverse speed isn't great. With that, you get up to 14.4 degrees per second, so it's a 12 degrees per second base traverse. And that allows me to put the main battery mod 2 in here for improved gun reload. The rest is unsurprising for a destroyer. We've got the concealment module in 3 and acceleration in 2. The historical camouflage, if you take it, gives you main battery range and torpedo range, plus a traverse speed and surface detection, so all good things. You can also sort of make it look like a marine animal. Yeah, I haven't looked up if that's a fish or a mammal. Come on, biology is not what I'm after here. But the main difference here is that you lose the torpedo range and instead you get hit points, which is not bad. So if you don't mind the looks of it, and to be honest, it could be worse. It doesn't. If you don't look too closely, it doesn't even look like something that swims in the ocean. You could argue that it's almost some sort of dazzle camo. The 4% hit points versus the 4% torpedo range is not a bad trade, given that she has the extra heal. So, if you put, I don't think there is a legendary commander for the Commonwealth tree, and if there's one, then I don't have him. But however set up, when it comes to destroyers, I'm starting to switch from the underwater protection because really, honestly, 3% off torpedo damage. If you get hit by torpedoes, It doesn't make a huge difference, and you mostly don't get hit by torpedoes. Instead, go for the emergency response. Just in case I get my engines or my rudder shot off, I don't necessarily need to burn a Damacon to make that happen. Now, I am getting myself an additional sonar here, and that gets us to level 6, and that's where it gets really interesting, because what you really want is to exploit weakness for obvious reasons. But I have gone with the recon skill, because having an extra sonar and having the faster cooldown allows me to play significantly more aggressively in an anti-destroyer role. And because the armor piercing on the ship is actually superior to most things you find on the British or Commonwealth trees at this tier, I'm quite enjoying that. You could argue between Daredevil and Survivalist, because you get an extra 15% HP. So both are valid choices in my opinion. You can absolutely go for Survivalist and just make the most out of your 4 heals that you get. But I personally prefer to just be more maneuverable if I can. The Mistweaver is an obvious choice here, that's no question. As is the Engine Overload, as is the Giant Hunter. And yes, I would recommend using APCS on these, because they are only 120s, but they have a decent amount of AP damage, and they, with APCS, they can really put the hurt on enemy destroyers. But as usual, 2 battles. One with a regular level 7 setup and one with the fully decked out premium consumables and the everything. Right, have I forgotten something? I don't think I have. So, HMCS Huron, let's see the Canadian in action. The first round is a 6v6 tier 7 battle, so plenty of tier 6s in the enemy team. Only the Gneisenau is up to tier with me. Everybody else is pretty much tier 6, and the 2 bot carriers we ignore. We are playing Scorching Islands for base capture against Gneisenau, double Queen Elizabeth, Bayan, Rahmat, and a Fubuki. Lots of battleships, which is good, but also Bayan, Gneisenau, yep, might get interesting. I like playing the ship relatively aggressively. What you kind of have to balance here is the lack of the torpedo alpha strike that you have in something like a Jervis. So you can't be too aggressive. In return, you get the engine boosts, but you only get 2 of them. So that said, with 4 heals, I feel like I can actually play relatively aggressively. So torpedoes on single fire, because honestly, with 4 torpedoes, there's no reason to never ever not single fire. And then we are going to go out and scout. Now I am using the first of my engine boosts simply because I want to get eyes on the enemy battleships as quickly as possible to give my team something to shoot at. And as you can see, the gun layout as well is relatively good, because you've got 2 of the turrets forward. One B turret is super firing, which means you can effectively bow tank, not in an armor sense, but in a, well, just dodge sense. Alright, we have found the Rahmat. That's unfortunate. So let's drop some torpedoes in his general direction. We haven't been spotted yet. And let's see if we can keep it that way. And drop some torpedoes. Oh well, we may as well start firing at the Bayan, but maybe we can. The torpedoes should be close enough that the Rahmat, if he's not paying attention. And is he shooting at me? Okay, that's a fire on the Bayan. No, the Rahmat is not shooting at me. And unfortunately, he has accelerated out of the turn, so he only took 2 torpedoes out of the 4. Now he's angry, and now he's shooting at me. But he's firing high explosive, and he's almost dead. So I'm just, come on, battleships, kill him. Would you mind? Okay, I can heal that back, but would you mind? Okay, you've got deep water torpedoes. That's not how they work. I'm trying to permafire the... Okay, I'm going to smoke up because my battleships are taking longer than expected. But yeah, these are deep water torpedoes. They don't work at me. Okay, Rahmat is dead. That is this flank basically secured at this point. Now, it hasn't cost me half my hit points because I was banking on the battleships going a little more aggressively here against a fully broadsiding scout cruiser that they can just one-shot. But... we'll now start poking the Bayan over there. You see, the problem that these guys were having is that the Rahmat, if he had been playing differently, would have been an extremely useful asset against my battleships. And against me, because it's a scout cruiser and it's got lots of scary guns, more than I do. And it's got deep water torpedoes that he could poke my battleships with. Well, the Rahmat is not there anymore. So... these guys are now under fire from a destroyer, which means they either have to try and deal with me, or they have to ignore me at their own peril and go for the battleships. There is a Queen Elizabeth over there, and so far everyone's pretty much ignoring me, so let's drop some torpedoes on the Queen Elizabeth, because these torpedoes reload reasonably quickly, and he's just coming out of the, it's just starting to accelerate out of the stationary position, and the Bayern is expecting torpedoes, but I haven't sent them at you, not if I have a much juicier target right in front of me. Queen Elizabeth has noticed me, but does not really have a way to avoid the torpedoes. Now, had I been in a Jervis, that would be a dead Queen Elizabeth, but I am not, so I have to sort of pace myself here. And we've got a fire on the Bayern, which he insta-damacons, and which is probably understandable to a degree, given that my fire chance is not the best. How I've been peppering him for the last 2 minutes, and this is the second fire that I'm getting. But let's see if we can get a perma-fire going, maybe if we're lucky. But yeah, the fire chance on the guns is relatively low. That is a problem that she shares with the Haida as well. So, okay, the Bayern is grumpy and is firing at me, but I'm not yet in secondary range of the Bayern. I don't need to be. I can just sit here and just kind of gently poke the battleships while I'm taking a look at what my team is doing over there. So we've got a cruiser and a battleship facing down an enemy battleship. We've got 2 other battleships over there. There should be 2 battleships and a destroyer somewhere there. And the team calls out, defend the base. Yeah, I'm not sure I'm in a position to do so. I think we're going to have to push at this point. Okay, Bayern is on fire. And maybe on perma-fire at this point. And I'm just drawing the fire, and I'm just hoping that my battleships can, given that they're not being shot at, you know, actually actually make use of that. I'm just tail chasing that Bayern there. I'm not planning to torpedo him, and he's once again got the sonar up to his credit. But yeah, I'm not after you with torpedoes. I don't need to be. My battleship's got that. Yep, Renown's got him. So that leaves the Queen Elizabeth. And we found the destroyer. He's been sailing all the way around the edge of the map and is going for the cap. But we're 2 kills ahead, and we can take down the Queen Elizabeth and the carrier. So I'm going to smoke up. Careful not to turn until my detection actually goes down, because it takes like a couple of seconds, unfortunately. Okay, now it's down. So now we just do something unexpected, turn to the other side and drop some torpedoes, again in single fire on the Queen Elizabeth, who can't see me since I am creeping in my smoke. And we are being capped, but there's a cruiser on the defense, so hopefully he can take care of that destroyer. And there's only the Queen Elizabeth left at this point, and I've got the torpedoes on target. Come on, that one's mine, otherwise I'll take the carrier down. And that just leaves that destroyer over there. Unfortunately, the Fubuki has won the gunfight with the Cochrane, which is very unfortunate. And I think, yeah, the Renown takes out the Queen Elizabeth. Okay, that just leaves the bot carrier. So now we need to counter cap. Well, the thing is, we don't need to cap before the app. And my team calls out, we need to cap. Absolutely, yes, I agree. We need to get rid of the Hiryu so we can start capping. We only need to start capping before the enemy destroyer has managed to clear the possession of our capture circle. If we can make that happen, and it's getting relatively close. So Fuso, if you wouldn't mind. Okay, now we're capping. Perfect. That's enough time, and there's going to be me in there as well. So that should give us enough time to neutralize, because we're ahead on points, and that destroyer can cap out all he wants. He's not going to win by capping, because by the time he's going to have managed to capture our base, we will have at the very least neutralized his base, and he need to be in possession of 2 bases to win by capping. So yeah, we're good now. Even if that battleship dies, we're good now. So we've won this game at this point, and we can yeah. So if you're in that sort of situation, it's important to start capping before you've lost possession of your capture circle. Otherwise, it can get relatively close. Or if they can manage to flip the cap while they still hold even a little bit of possession of their friendly capture circle, then they can win by capping. But if you manage to start flipping and get it to neutral before they flip, then there is no danger. So there we go. And we have won. And the Renown actually takes the MVP there. That's probably down to kills, but this is not a terrible ship. Now I could have done a lot of these things in a Jervis as well, and I probably could have done them better in a Jervis. But one of the interesting factors I found from this battle was to see, you know what, yeah, you can bleed a bit of hit points at the beginning if it allows you to bait an enemy scout cruiser into the fire line of your battleships. And you can take a bit of a beating because you can heal it back. Which brings us to our second round. We are facing a King George V, a Nürnberg, a Budyonny, a Mayhem, and a Skåne. Keep an eye on that Mayhem. That's a player who's been pretty good, actually, I would say. Anyway, let's go. Epicenter and Frozen Shelter. So like I said earlier, I'm comfortable in this ship to play relatively aggressively because I have sonar, because I have the long duration smoke screen, because I have single fire torpedoes, which isn't a huge asset in this kind of thing, but I've got pretty good armor piercing shells, and I've got 4 heals. And this is with the premium heals, fully decked out commander and everything. So definitely switching to armor piercing and single fire torpedoes, and then we're going to engine boost ourselves up into that forward position there. Now with the relatively fast reload, you could drop predictive torps, but with only 4 torpedoes, the chance of actually hitting anything is relatively slim. So I'm just going to head over to that little island there and get myself into a position that is both, especially with these cruisers around, that is both defensible and the King George V, which is probably going to have the HE preloaded, which is giving me some shielding from the enemy team, and I can potentially threaten whatever comes destroyer-wise and is trying to base camp the center island. So there's a nice little nook there next to that island, on both sides actually. Yeah, let's drop some predictive torpedoes just in case they hit anything, but yeah, 4 torpedoes not going to make a huge difference. But there's a nice little nook that allows you to be within the center ring, which is being capped, by the way, so there is at least 1 destroyer in here. And we'll see how many once I get in there. And I am capping now, so it's 1 destroyer. 2 at this point. Okay, there's the Mayhem. And there come the predictive torpedoes. Didn't need no sonar to find these, but yeah, that's why I am already in this position. But I'm sort of a second too late. And there's a Budyonny out there, so I don't want to poke my nose out. The Mayhem has definitely got... And there comes the King George, yep. he had the HE preloaded. Now, the Mayhem, however, has a problem, because the Mayhem is being pushed by the Huron on one side and by me on the other. So he smokes up, as he does. And I think he's out of sonar range. That's only a bot farragut, so I don't really need to care about it. But with the APCS, you can even shoot armor piercing at cruisers in this thing. Time to use my first heal and inch a little closer and see if we can spot the Mayhem, because the Huron has wisely decided not to go in there and commit suicide by Mayhem. But he is not dropping torpedoes, and he appears to be... Where are you, you little... Oh, there you are. Okay, I see you. Okay, torpedoes at the King George V. Let's pray that he doesn't pay attention. And let's change position. Well, the Mayhem doesn't want to come out and fight, which is understandable. But we are holding the center cap, so he would have to, because I've got half of my team in here. And we've got torpedoes away at the King George, and if he decides to come around, then he'll be dead. But we've got a bot Nagato now sailing through the center, and we've got that unfortunate Budyonny over there, which is not something that I would necessarily want to deal with if I don't have to. And I got to keep an eye out on the Mayhem. My torpedoes appear to have missed, so let's focus our fire on the Budyonny, and my torpedoes are almost reloaded, so I can help out with clearing the bot Nagato out of the center cup. And just make sure that we're dealing with things. So torpedoes out at the bot. We've just Mayhem has just taken out our bot. So Mayhem and me are doing the exact same thing here on each side. Only that we... Oh, okay, no, the Budyonny appears to be gone. Okay, in that case, I can get my attention back to the Mayhem and the King George over there. So Mayhem, how are you doing? Yep, King George has seen me, but I've got another heal. Hello, Mayhem. Okay, there are going to be torpedoes in the water, so I'm going to smoke up, but that's only 1 spread. And he's reversing, so there's going to be a 2nd spread. I'm just waiting for my smoke to work. There it comes, sonar up. That means I can see you. Where's your 2nd torpedo spread? You're just waiting for me to poke out, and then you're launching it, right? There it is. I knew it was coming, already reversing. But well played. I mean, honestly, right? How many players have you seen recently doing this kind of stuff? It's extremely refreshing to see somebody who can, in the world of jingles, be thinking and breathing at the same time. Okay, I've still got 9 seconds on my smoke screen, so Mayhem is duking my shots there. And I do need to get out of here because there's the King George. Yeah, that's the man, duking shots. Let's drop some torpedoes onto the King George, who's probably not paying attention. Get behind the island to make sure the King George doesn't blab us in the side, and then keep getting into a duel with the Mayan again. Who is firing armor piercing at me, as he should. And I'm just going to go behind the island. Because I've got the hit point advantage, but I do want that King George out of the way there, and I don't want to poke out. So now I'm unspotted, but Mayan obviously knows where I am, and so does the King George, but that was a blind shot. So, okay, so his mains are on reload. I'm just going to get a couple of shots with the armor piercing into the stern section, and then I'm just going to back off again. Because I'm holding the center cap, and even though we're not holding the other caps, we're even on on kills. There come the torpedoes from the Mayan. You see that? He's been expecting that I would be coming out from either side, but the King George is almost dead. Let's see if we can get rid of him, because very dangerous battleship. There he goes. And that just leaves the Mayan, who is around here somewhere. But now I have backup from the cruisers. So let's get the engine boost up and deal with the Nürnberg. There come the Mayan torpedoes. Yep, that wasn't bad. Let's smoke up, not because of the Mayan, but because of the Nürnberg. Because yeah, Nürnberg with armor piercing hurts. These are Nürnberg torpedoes, so there should still be a second spread of Mayan torpedoes out here somewhere. But I'm now undetected, so torpedoes never going to hit anything. I'm just going to rely on the guns to finish this off here. Let's see, but the Mayan has now got bigger problems, and he is going after me again, and that's a double spread. I was only expecting a single, so interesting. Can't remember how many torpedoes the Mayan has, but might have more than I remember. So I've taken one torpedo, but that's all I'm ever going to take. And got him. But well played, honestly, well played. That was very fun and refreshing for a duel, and I thoroughly enjoyed that. So now I'm out of everything. I'm down to one heal, and we've just got a Nürnberg to gun down. And there's one more destroyer out there somewhere, but that's pretty much all she wrote. So. I very much enjoyed that little duel, and I think it goes to show that the Huron definitely can stand up to fellow Tier 7 destroyers. So with that out of the way, is this a better ship than the Haida? Well, again, I haven't played the Haida in absolute ages. It's a good ship, I think, and it's not down to the stats. So it's more down. It's not a ship that's going to net you hundreds of thousands of points of damage, but it's a good ship it's a good all-rounder ship, I find. It's a good ship that allows you to play aggressively, that allows you to take control of situations, and it allows you to battle enemy destroyers, and that is quite enjoyable in my opinion, and is a sort of, as a cruiser player, the sort of ship that I like having. So this is a good boat. I'm okay with that boat. It's if you're after a decent Tier 7 destroyer and you want something that is a bit more of a blue collar, roll up your sleeves and get your hands dirty in controlling capture points and similar things, it's not a bad ship to have. So there we are, and that's it for me today. Thanks everybody, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.